My name is Mark Pepper. I'm a lifelong resident of an area in North Bristol called Lawrence Weston, and I'm currently the development manager for the resident-led and driven development trust, which is Ambition Lawrence Weston. Lawrence Weston is home to around about 7,200 residents, sharing around about 3,200 units of accommodation. The areas, as the normal stats you would see in an area of high deprivation, with poverty, high unemployment, poor housing conditions, and just a lot of inequality we see, considering we're in Bristol and Bristol's quite a wealthy city. My role as development manager is to oversee the residents' community written and driven community development plan, which is the way forward. Sorry, that's the title of the plan, the way forward. Yeah, so it's my job to oversee that plan, basically. We started in 2012, where a lot of the residents at that time felt that there were a lot of assets being stripped from the local area. A lot of services were being removed because of austerity measures that were in place at the time, and still are. So we'd had enough, really, of being ignored by stakeholders and decision makers. We felt we were being ignored and forgotten about, and that we didn't really have a voice. So that's why us as a group of local residents came together to try and improve the place. Like I say, we formed Ambition Lawrence Weston, which is a registered charity and company limited by guarantee. And that's our aim now, is to try and lead our own destiny, basically.
That's great, thank you. Could you say a little bit more about some of the assets that were taken away from the area and some of the ideas you've got in the development plan that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So some of the assets that were stripped, that we say were stripped, include the youth service, which this building used to host. This building was under threat of being demolished and replaced by something else. So this was the first achievement we did, really. As a group of residents, we took over this building. So that's where we were able to meet up and design and plan. Some of the other assets that were being removed were things like green spaces where developments were happening, the local swimming pool, the local leisure centre, the school, the college, some community space, even things such as bus service was being stripped out and removed. What else did we lose? The local clinic is now shut. 4 out of the 5 pubs are now gone. So quite a lot of different assets, really. So within our plan, obviously, we want to try and repair some of that damage. So the main focus, obviously, we didn't want to make a repeat of the failures that came before us with different agendas that tried to regenerate the area. And what I mean by that is agendas getting parachuted in and telling us what was good for us, not so good for us. So our first step really was to go out and consult every resident in the local area. So we went out to find out what was good, not so good about living in Lawrence Weston, and what they wanted to see change. So all of our work is driven by those residents. What the residents were telling us was the biggest thing on their priority, 82% of people that responded said they wanted to see a local supermarket. To improve the poor retail offer we had. So we've managed to go on and facilitate that. Some of the next biggest issue is poor housing. So we're involved in delivering a community-led housing development of 38 affordable homes on some land in Lawrence Weston. They also want to see improvements in the leisure spaces and leisure facilities. So we've gone on to deliver 3 new play parks. We've refurbished and improved the local BMX track. We've supported the local community farm with some funding. Other things that people want to see was improved bus service. So we've managed to campaign for an improved bus service. What else? Obviously all of this costs money. Money, skills, knowledge, and money is something that the area didn't have. But once we delivered the plan, that gave confidence in other investors to come and invest in the area. And we were fortunate enough to be given a grant of £1 million to be spent over 10 years in the way that the residents felt fit, basically. So we were in total control of that money. So with that money then, first give us the opportunity to buy in that advice, knowledge, skills, expertise for us to be able to go and deliver some of these quite aspirational projects that we're planning to deliver. Yeah, so there's an abundance of different large infrastructure projects that we're trying to deliver, but just as importantly, there's a lot of grassroots services that were stripped out that we're trying to bring back in. So now we find ourselves since 2012 delivering more services than what we had previously, which is a really good thing. So we now deliver through other providers. We facilitate the delivery of debt advice, money advice, employment, training, education. We even deliver outreach veterinary service. We've started up and supported lots of different residents to come together and deliver different groups where their interests and passions lie. So we've got a very strong men in sheds group. We've got a strong litter picking group. We've got a strong guerrilla gardening group. So there's lots of different groups that we're supporting and facilitating. I think for us to be able to do that, obviously we needed some sort of control and power. And we've managed to do that through the Localism Act. So the area was primed for a lot of development. So we just wanted to have a bigger say on what went on in Lawrence Weston, basically. So we decided to embark on delivering a neighbourhood development plan, which was made by the local authority, I think it was back in 2017 now, which has enabled us to shape the community a lot better. It enabled us to bring a supermarket to the area, like I said. And up until that point, the residents didn't really have a voice. They didn't have confidence that they could make any positive changes. But then once a small group of us delivered or helped deliver a supermarket, that gave other residents the confidence to get involved. And we're going on from strength to strength, really.
It's amazing. It's a real story of success and turnaround from losing assets to being able to take back control and lead some of those. How do you see the balance when communities are taking control of their neighbourhoods between maybe some of those things that are offered by government and the Localism Act and actually the people themselves? Can you think a bit more widely about that sort of process of taking control and taking ownership?
To take control and ownership, first I think you need to have a voice and you need to have a clear indication of where you want to go and how you want to get there. And then you need to perhaps challenge some of the obstacles and barriers that are put in your way. Perhaps not intentionally by local authorities or governments, but there's still barriers nonetheless. Working with some of the policies that the local authority have put into place, it's been quite a challenge. But I think we're quite fortunate in Bristol where we've got quite an understanding and enabling local authority or administration at this moment. So that's helped to get their ear, if you like. And we've had quite a lot of success in trying to change some of those policies. For example, the areas was going to be, or is going to be developed quite heavily with more housing because obviously we need housing. That's going to be developed, a lot of that's going to be developed by the local authority. We want to make sure that we benefited from that. So through negotiations with the local authority and working through their policies, we've managed to negotiate what they call a local lettings policy to make sure that 50% of the people in Lawrence Weston already living here benefit from those affordable homes, which is a fantastic benefit. But not only does it benefit our residents, it also eases the way for the local authority to provide those houses because the residents now want to see them. Whereas in the past they might have been quite obstructive and not wanting to see those houses come together. So from that, really, we've formed quite a good working relationship with the local authority. Like I say, I think this administration is more enabling than what we've seen in the past, and that has definitely helped us in the success that we've had at to present. But you know, we've had to do a lot of learning on that front. We've had to take quite a bit of responsibility on why things haven't changed. Like we never used to come together and have a voice, and obviously, if you haven't got a voice, you can't be listened to. But now I think we're being listened to, our voice is being heard, and things are changing for the better from the local authority. We feed in wherever we can with different consultations and stuff like that. We've got a very strong planning group, which originally was fairly well supported by the local authority to help us get to where we are at the present time. In the past, we just spent too much time bashing the local authority and not really working with them. So like I say, we had to learn how to behave, for the want of a better word, really, in a way that was going to deliver good changes for the local residents instead of just screaming and shouting and stamping our feet. We had to learn what the local authority needed and what we needed, and together come together to make sure that everyone's needs were met, really.
Right, thank you. And what do you think then good leadership looks like at the neighbourhood at the local level?
Good leadership, well, I don't know, it depends on what your interpretation of leadership is. If you're suggesting that I'm a leader, I might push back on that. I don't think I'm a leader, I think I'm more led than lead. The leaders, from our point of view in our organisation, are the residents themselves. So they lead as to what it is they want to see, and we try and facilitate and advise them the best way to achieve that, really. But if you're talking leadership in general, and again, you know, it depends people's interpretation of what leadership is. But I think some of the qualities you need for the type of role that I do is first and foremost to be a good listener, to be prepared to take risks. I think you need to be fairly brave, to step out of your comfort zone sometimes. You need to speak different languages with different people, and I don't mean you know, foreign languages. I mean the technical language that sometimes people use, the academic language, and then back to my own language, speaking to local people in plain English, really. What else do you need? You need to be able to and willing to compromise and to negotiate. Willing to work with people that are far more clever than you and actually encourage that, and not be frightened of that, because we wouldn't have got anywhere without being surrounded by a lot of clever, intelligent people, basically, with a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge. And don't be frightened to admit that you don't, if you are a leader, so say leader, don't be frightened to admit that you don't know all the answers, and don't be scared to go out and ask for help. But yeah, I think listening, being able to negotiate and compromise, and know how to behave in different arenas is quite important.
What would be one piece of advice you'd offer to someone wanting to lead local change in their neighbourhood?
Don't do it. One piece of advice, it's really difficult to give just one piece of advice, I guess, if you're just looking for that one particular piece of advice, and that is to listen. You know, realise that you don't know all the answers. Your perception of, for us, your ideal of leadership and what you're trying to achieve may be totally different from those people that you're trying to benefit. And again, be open to other people's ideals, be acceptable in how you deal with failures, because you will get a lot of failures. Be resilient. I don't know, really, there's loads and loads of different things you need, I think. But yeah, listen. Most importantly of all, take the community with you. You can't lead a community that aren't totally supportive and got confidence in you.
Have you got a particular example of either where you've needed to be resilient or bringing in different people's voices has maybe changed what you were initially thinking of pursuing as an organisation?
Yeah, definitely. Resilience is, you know, part and parcel of it. You know, you're going to come up with a lot of challenges, a lot of no's. And you just need to be resilient to that. You need to be resilient to criticisms coming from your own community, and from some of your neighbours and some of your family that don't agree with the strategy that you as a wider community have put in place. You know, take for example our planning group. We had a certain demographic that were attracted to come into the planning group who had their own life experience of what life was like in Lawrence Weston. And one typical example, they decided that they didn't want to see any more flats in the local area, because their experience of flats was cold, harsh, horrible flats, and they felt no, they didn't want to see flats in the area. But talking to young people who were in need of accommodation, they were quite pleased to know that perhaps there could be an opportunity for them to receive a flat. So again, it's broadening that consultation or that survey or that listening that you need to do. Don't just focus on a small cohort of people, and just get as wide opinion as you possibly can. I don't know if that's answered your question, Kate.
That's a really, really nice example. Thank you. I suppose, is there anything that maybe working with other stakeholders, working with either the local council or other organisations on a citywide level that's been particularly surprising or challenging, or you found a really good way of working through? Any specific examples from your experience would be great.
Yeah, I think I was quite surprised that the amount of organisations that we deemed as the enemy at one point, like authority, like the local authority, like the government, we were quite surprised that once we engaged with them in a proper way, that they were quite keen to support us as well. I think that's got something to do with austerity, especially when you look at the local authority, where perhaps they haven't got the resources now to deliver what they used to deliver. So now for a change, they need us more than what we need them in some respects. But no, it's quite good to see officers that were not just looking at policy, but looking at how those policies affected local people, and to see that they really did want to make a positive change for us, even though they wouldn't benefit from it. So that's quite pleasing. There's always challenges. Yeah, there's more challenges than pleasures, I think. But it's good to see that people are prepared to work with us to get over those challenges. And I think also what's important for us anyway is obviously we haven't got the skill set or the knowledge set we've got here, or a lot of residents feel that. To be able to lead residents and to get residents to lead you into what they want, they need the confidence to feel that they can speak. And what I noticed in early days was a lot of people were reluctant to speak because they were working with a lot of really clever, intelligent academics, and they felt quite threatened by that. But they didn't realise the skills, knowledge and experience that they're carrying that is just as important, if not more, than some of the academic qualifications that people had. And once you show them and you get those people that are working with you to show the value to those residents of the knowledge that they hold, seem to raise their confidence, and from that they were more comfortable in speaking out and suggesting different things, and giving them that confidence and that voice. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Yeah. But yeah, it's just valuing each other for the skills and experience that they can bring, and working together with those skills and experience for the better of the outcome that you're trying to achieve, really.
That's great, thank you. And what is one thing that planners could do to enable greater community leadership at the local level?
I said earlier on, I think to be a good leader, you need to be able to talk different languages. So there's one thing, me talking my language, and it's completely different to, say, a planner or architect speaking their language. So just, I think, planners and other professionals like that need to be aware of the language they're using and whether or not people understand that, because I find as soon as people don't understand that language, their confidence level go again, and then they withdraw, and then you can't get that engagement that you need. So talk plain English, basically, and don't expect people are going to know these sometimes technical, complicated words and phrases that sometimes show up in planning. Simple things that, you know, I used to struggle with. Affordable homes, what's that? I don't know what an affordable home is. What's the difference between an affordable home, social housing, you know, just simple things like that, really. Overage, what does overage mean when you're talking about delivering houses? So yeah, a lot of different words. Sustainability, topographical, is it topographical? Have I got the right word? You know, for us, the lay of the land, is there a big slope there? But when we had planners coming in talking that sort of language, people switched off because they didn't understand what they were on about. And the same for us, you know, we speak English, but you know, some of our Lawrence Western English is nothing like normal English. So I think it's just getting a better understanding of how we communicate and making sure that people are communicating in the right way.
And do you think you achieved that through the neighbourhood plan, or do you think you had to learn to be fluent planners for that process?
We needed, yes, definitely. That was just a foreign language to us, really. So we were fortunate enough to have a lot of advisors that were planners that was able to spend the time to translate what some of those terms and references meant. I mean, I was heavily involved in the neighbourhood development plan. I read it now and sometimes I still think, what's that? Because obviously the inspector and others need to have it in their language for them to understand it. But yeah, that was really crucial. But the learning's there. You know, we've got a planning group now who are quite knowledgeable. Some developers that come in to engage with us are quite shocked with some of the questions that they're asked with. In fact, the majority of times these big developers send in a junior office person, and sometimes they're out of their depth because they don't know the knowledge that they need to answer some of the questions that some of the residents are asking. Yeah, so language is quite important in all those technical words, and yeah, just bringing it back down to basic English, really, so we understand it.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to add which you think would be useful for thinking about leading change on the local level?
I think if you're about to try and embark on making change at a local level, you need to ensure that you've got the resources you need. Sometimes that's money, sometimes that's skills, sometimes that's knowledge. But the biggest thing for areas like ours anyway is time. You need a considerable amount of time to make that local change. And like I say, you need that passion and that determination to also do it. But you need a lot of support as well.